Chapter 9, it focuses on how to make Reconstruction's efforts more innovative, more inclusive, and more efficient by using technology after natural disasters to help put society back together. Reconstruction efforts will now be focused on communications first mentality by working on establishing a communications infrastructure first when starting rebuilding efforts. The most effective recovery efforts have involved some form of technology connection that tell people where the most affected areas are, who needs the most help, and where survivors are, such as after the earthquake in Haiti. An open-source crisis mapping platform was set up by engineers just hours after the earthquake. The data collected by the map was gathered from texts sent by survivors, informing aggregated reports of destruction, needed emergency supplies, trapped people, and violence or crime, which saves thousands of lives. Telecommunications communities and NGO organizations play a large role in filling the gap left by disasters or crises with technology and establishing a communication system. Such as in Somalia, the telecommunications industry is vital for Somalis for providing jobs, information, security, and critical connections to the outside world, since their government is so weak and has no structure. After Haiti, many people were so moved by the effects of the earthquake that Red Cross had raised through their Text to Donate campaign. Establishing a communications line would be the goal of both so that survivors can communicate with each other and the government, and so that it's easier for donors to know where to put their money towards. Establishing a telecommunications infrastructure promotes and facilitates the growth of the economy, due to it allowing new businesses to spring up from the connectivity it brings. Governments bear most of the costs, such as the CPA installing mobile lines in Iraq, or the UN establishing a mobile network in Afghanistan. Plus a telecommunications industry by being crucial to the Reconstruction prototype by building and maintaining a modern communications network. Governments will have to impose regulations on rising business leaders who will come to constitute a new digital oligarchy and take advantage of post-disaster environment. Plus, governments who do accept technology into their infrastructure will have to be somewhat wary of entrusting their data to cloud providers.
After a natural or man-made disaster, people are obviously lacking critical services and can require immense resources to restore them. As it says in page 218, future reconstruction efforts will rely heavily on communication technologies and vast communication networks. The local agencies and foreign entities helping reconstruction have the power in how this reconstruction takes place. Communication reconstruction may be limited to disagreements in the agencies and lack of resources, but as page 220 says, get the towers up, get them running, and overrule the people who think telecommunications are secondary to emergency rescue. Fast networks aren't secondary, they're complementary. Access to telecommunications after a disaster can be the difference between life and death for survivors. An example is the live crisis map built by Ushadi volunteers, allowing people on the ground to text information to. Agencies don't want survivors to die, so these passive barriers are usually the result of poor management, disagreement on strategies, lack of resources, or possible corruption. The cost of adopting this communications-first mentality is that it is still imperfect and is prone to missteps, but the benefits are unquestionable. As page 218 says, a prototype-like approach to reconstruction efforts will take some time to develop, but ultimately it will serve the communities in need.
After natural disaster or war, the cost of reconstruction falls on the many. The main concern after disasters is to restore the infrastructure of the region, but secondary and arguably most important is the restoration and construction of communication technologies and communication networks. Initial costs directly after disasters or at the conclusion of conflicts fall upon the shoulders of relief efforts. Organizations such as Red Cross help distribute aid to the displaced and in need. Like many other non-governmentally funded relief efforts, Red Cross relies on donations as technology becomes a greater part of everyday lives around the world. People are more aware in real time to the turmoil faced by the citizens in disaster areas and are more willing to donate. Primary cost of restoring infrastructure and communication relies on the government. When established, government aid is necessary in providing funds and security to disaster regions. To help aid in the restoration of communications, many telecommunication companies have taken advantage to earn a profit by building and establishing communication infrastructure in disaster regions. Not only do the companies profit by establishing communications in regions that were previously lacking, but the citizens and government profit as well. Citizens receive much needed communication technology, and government is aided with the increase of infrastructure and aid to the economy.
The government has some responsibility to its people for reconstruction. One helpful way would be to restore communications first and foremost. They and the citizens would have access to telecommunications and would make reconstruction much easier and possibly faster. The US helped get phone towers and other services in Iraq after Saddam Hussein's regime fell. They did this overnight, but however, with this process, emergency rescue would have to come secondary. Telecommunication companies would need to have solid networks so that people would have access after a crisis. They may or may not work with the government to get networks up or help build some infrastructure. The government may contract these companies as they did with the Coalition Provisional Authority (CPA) did with MTC Vodafone in Iraq. Governments would have to make sure that the telecom companies would not take advantage of the situation. Humanitarian communities take it upon themselves to help out people in need around the world. Some people may feel like they have a moral obligation to help others in need. Most of the times, they are really quick with their responses. However, there can be inefficient aid distribution, which happened with Haiti post-earthquake. For instance, there was leftover unused expired pharmaceuticals in warehouses, and people were still in tent cities a year later after the earthquake.
Technology, like anything else, comes with its risks and benefits, especially in post-disaster reconstruction efforts. Opening up telecommunication data in times of relief can pose some risk. Startup organizations can crowd out traditional NGOs as the need for relief now becomes open market. Opportunists are likely to take advantage of relief situations that boast new opportunities for direct marketing. Donor trust will be weakened, resulting in an unfortunate potential increase in the number of victims than those actually helped. There will be a rise in the number of vanity projects, which will only showcase talents and fake reasons, distracting from truth and priorities of where the help is really needed. It is possible competition will make a mess of accountability. Digital reconstruction also yields some positive benefits by integrating telecommunication data into relief efforts. The government can keep track of all activity, monitoring all NGOs, and present an integrated, transparent rating system on an open platform that will generate reviews, which can help guide donors and their investments and separate the real helpers from competitors. More mobile usage will give rise to new opportunities in aid distribution. Needs and personal information can be sent to the cloud where individual donors can select them and send them directly. An open platform linked to bigger organizations would promote a wider audience on a global, live, interactive map. The digital platforms will allow direct connection between recipients and their funders. Technology will also help document and record future justice processes, such as reparations, vetting, truth, and reconstruction commissions and trials. Justice processes will be real-time streamed on mobile devices, and they will bridge the gap among everyone, making everyone and everything more accessible and transparent.
Two related recent events are the Hurricane Irma relief efforts and the Puerto Rico reconstruction. The Red Cross has been able to distribute over 1 million relief items, serve over 1.5 million meals, and provide over 25,000 health contacts, all due to their online donations. This is similar to the prediction Schmidt and Cohen made about technology, how it will make it easier to provide donations globally. In Puerto Rico, the communications network as well as many other services were devastated when Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico. The country's power network is still devastated, and no power means no telecommunications. Restoring power to get these communication networks and other services up and running is critical, as the authors state, to repair the damage to the island.